Alright, so let's talk about something that a lot of people seem to be avoiding like the plague right now. The Nintendo Switch 2's weekly sales are collapsing fast. And if you bring that up, you're either told you're just overreacting, or you get slapped with the usual "it's normal for consoles to dip after launch" argument. But is that really what's happening here? Or is something deeper going on? This past week, the Switch 2 reportedly sold just over 71,000 units in Japan. That's down from around 135,000 the week before. And that week, it was down from over 160,000. So week over week, that's like a 55% drop, followed by another 47% drop. That is not a small dip, that's a plummet. And this is coming from Famitsu, Japan's most trusted weekly sales source. The same place everyone was quoting when the Switch 2 launched and supposedly had record-breaking numbers. So what happened? Where's the hype now? Why isn't everyone still bragging about those amazing Switch 2 sales? Let's rewind to launch week. Remember how Nintendo bragged about selling 3.5 million units in 4 days? People were calling it the fastest-selling console ever. It was hailed as a monumental success. But what if I told you that entire narrative was manufactured hype? See, there's a growing theory that Nintendo didn't just launch the Switch 2. They stockpiled units for months before launch so they could flood the market and inflate the day one numbers. That number wasn't about how many people wanted a Switch 2. It was about how many units they had sitting in warehouses, ready to push out on day one to create the illusion of demand. They weren't selling out in minutes. It took days for major stores to run out. In some places, you could still grab one a full week after launch. That doesn't scream record demand. That screams orchestrated rollout. Now here's where it gets even more suspicious. Let's say Nintendo really did sell 5 million units in the first month like some early reports hinted. Cool. But if total sales by the end of the year only reached 10 million, that means half of all sales happened in 1 month. That's not sustainable. That's not natural. That's top-heavy marketing. And now that initial batch is drying up, the weekly sales numbers are tanking. And no amount of "but Donkey Kong Bonanza is coming" can hide that. What's been most fascinating is watching the Nintendo fandom twist itself into a pretzel over this. Week 1, it's the fastest-selling console ever. We won. Week 2, of course there's a drop. It was an insane launch. Week 3, it's still over 100k units per week. That's amazing. Week 4, okay, 80k is still strong. This week, 71,000 is fine. Shortages, right? Maybe Nintendo's holding back stock for Donkey Kong Bonanza. It's like watching someone confidently sink in quicksand while shouting, "This is totally part of the plan." Let's be honest here. If the Switch 2 really was in high demand, scalpers would be thriving right now. But they're not. The resale profit margin has gone from 100 plus at launch to barely $20 or $30 now. That tells you everything you need to know. Some people are now suggesting Nintendo is strategically holding back inventory to create artificial scarcity around the launch of Donkey Kong Bonanza or the holiday season. You know, the same thing fans used to mock Sony for doing? Suddenly that strategy is genius now? Look, Nintendo is absolutely playing the long game here. They want this console to feel like it's in high demand, even when it's not. And one of the easiest ways to do that is to make sure it sells out, just slow enough that you can tweet a record stat before anyone checks the math. Back in the Wii era, people were lining up for hours, months after launch. Same with PS4. Same with the original Switch. But this time, you can grab a Switch 2 at Target 2 days after launch if you follow a stock tracker. That's not a sign of overwhelming demand. That's a sign of moderate demand with padded inventory. Even scalpers bailed out early. Why? Because Nintendo priced the system so high that even flipping it wasn't worth it. If this thing was truly in short supply and high demand, resale prices would be sky high. Instead, we're seeing discounts, open box units, and silence. Let's be real. The Switch 2 is not a failure. But it's not the miracle device some people made it out to be either. The hype was massive, but the follow-through? Kinda mid. Nintendo fans need to be honest about what this console really is. It's a solid but overpriced system, launched with clever PR spin, and now facing the realities of a market that's not as hungry as it was in 2017. We're seeing the consequences of that now. Sales drops, shifting narratives, and increasingly desperate excuses. Look, this isn't a doom post. I'm not saying Switch 2 is doomed. I'm saying be realistic. Don't buy into fake scarcity. Don't act like record-breaking launches mean long-term success. And maybe, just maybe, start asking why Nintendo is charging you $450 for a console that dropped below 72K weekly sales in just over a month. The numbers don't lie, but sometimes the way they're presented, that's where the illusion lives. So next time you hear Switch 2 is the fastest-selling console ever, ask yourself this: is it really the best-selling console, or just the best marketed one? So yeah, that's where we're at. The Nintendo Switch 2 started out with a bang, but now it's kind of wheezing a little. Doesn't mean it's doomed, but it does mean the hype train might have been running on fumes. Anyway, let me know what you think. Are these weekly sales drops a sign of trouble? Is the demand really fading, or is this just the calm before the holiday storm? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'm curious where you all stand on this. Is this launch overhyped, or are people just overreacting to normal sales curves? And if you're new around here, hit that subscribe button. I cover this kind of stuff all the time. Sales data, industry spin, corporate nonsense, you name it, we dig into it. Oh, and don't forget to like the video if you enjoy these deep dives. It helps a ton with the algorithm and lets me keep roasting billion-dollar companies when they get too comfortable. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one.